Have you ever paused in the middle of your day and wondered how you arrived there? Not physically, but inwardly? Why your hand reaches for your phone before you feel the loneliness it's trying to soothe? Why you laugh in rooms that drain you, agree to things that quietly exhaust you, or remain silent when your entire body is screaming to speak? It feels like choice. It feels like intention. But beneath that comforting illusion, something else is moving. Something older than reason, quieter than thought, yet infinitely more powerful than your conscious will. This hidden force is the subconscious mind, the silent engine beneath your identity. It breathes when you forget to. It reacts before you can explain why. It remembers everything you've tried to outgrow, every glance that lingered too long, every rejection that taught you caution, every moment your nervous system learned what safety felt like and what danger sounded like. Like a deep river beneath a frozen surface, the subconscious moves relentlessly, shaping your direction while your conscious mind walks above it, convinced it's in control. You believe you are choosing who to love, what to fear, how to live. But many of those decisions were written long before you had words for them. A pianist's fingers move before thought catches up. A driver reaches home without recalling the turns. The body knows the way because the mind beneath the mind is guiding it. This is the paradox of being human. You are both the captain and the current. You hold the wheel, yet something unseen charts the course. Neuroscientists estimate that up to 95% of daily behavior is automatic, driven not by conscious awareness, but by a vast internal network of memories, habits, emotional conditioning, and learned survival strategies. Most of who you are was never consciously chosen. Imagine walking through a garden you never planted, each flower a memory, each thorn a fear. You trim the edges, trying to control what grows, but the roots lie far beneath your reach. This is where the subconscious lives, not as an enemy, but as an archivist. It stores everything you've ever felt, catalogs what kept you safe, and quietly rewrites the rules of your existence around those lessons. It does not care about happiness. It does not care about ambition. It cares about survival, and so it guides you toward what feels familiar, even when that familiarity hurts. You repeat patterns that no longer serve you. You chase relationships that mirror your past. You avoid opportunities that threaten old definitions of safety. The subconscious whispers, "Better the pain you know than the unknown that might destroy you." And the conscious mind obeys, believing it has chosen wisely. Yet beneath the noise of thought, the subconscious remains vast, ancient, unfinished. It is both guardian and ghost, protector and prison. You may believe you are steering your life, but perhaps you're only holding the wheel while something deeper chooses the road. And if most of who you are lives in silence, then who or what is truly driving? Before you ever learned to think, you were already learning to feel. Long before language, the world began writing inside you, not with words, but with tone, rhythm, absence, and emotional temperature. A glance that lingered too long, a sigh heavy with disappointment, a smile that made you feel safe, briefly. Your subconscious witnessed it all. Imagine a child sitting in a dimly lit room, clutching a toy for comfort. No shouting, no explanation, just tension in the air. A parent's voice sharper than usual. Movements rushed, eyes elsewhere. The child learned something vital, not through logic, but through sensation. Love can disappear without warning. That lesson doesn't fade when the room grows quiet. It sinks deeper, embedding itself into the subconscious. Years later, that child may grow into an adult who hesitates before expressing joy, afraid it might provoke loss, or one who overcompensates endlessly, becoming accommodating, agreeable, self-erasing to preserve peace. Psychologists call this attachment conditioning. The developing brain learns to associate love with survival. Neural pathways strengthen with repetition. A raised voice becomes danger. A gentle touch becomes salvation. By the age of 7, the subconscious mind has already absorbed most of its core beliefs, not about the world, but about you within it. Am I safe? Am I seen? Do my feelings matter? Each answer carves a pattern that still runs beneath your adult thoughts. A boy praised only for silence becomes a man who fears his own voice. A girl loved for perfection becomes a woman who confuses exhaustion with worth. These are not choices. They are echoes. The subconscious, devoted to your survival, keeps replaying what once kept you safe, unaware that time has passed, that you've grown, that the danger is no longer real. To it, you're still that child scanning faces for warmth, adjusting yourself to avoid the storm. Alan Watts once observed, "We seldom realize that our most private thoughts are not actually our own. They were inherited, shaped by tone, by footsteps in hallways, by how gently or harshly someone spoke your name. Every adult hesitation, craving, fear is an unremembered lesson repeating itself. The subconscious never forgets its first language, emotion, and it still speaks through you. As you grow older, you believe you've escaped your past, that logic, discipline, and achievement have rewritten it. But the child you were didn't disappear. It learned to wear a mask. You call it maturity, responsibility, ambition. Often, it's just armor. At work, it looks like control, the need to excel, to be indispensable. In love, it looks like caution, smiling through discomfort, saying, "I'm fine," while unraveling inside. The subconscious doesn't trust the world with your truth, because once your truth wasn't enough. So it builds habits instead of honesty. The people pleaser who cannot say no. The perfectionist who only feels safe when exhausted. The skeptic who keeps others at arm's length because trust once drew blood. These masks are not lies. They are unfinished survival stories. Neuroscience confirms it. Most decisions are made before you are aware of making them. The brain reactivates neural circuits formed in childhood. Familiarity feels like safety, even when it hurts. That is why you repeat relationships, why pain becomes predictable, why suffering repeated long enough begins to feel like home. You believe you're chasing happiness. The subconscious is chasing recognition. Imagine yourself as a puppet adorned with golden strings. You move gracefully, perform convincingly, appear free, yet unseen hands pull from below, woven from fear, expectation, and silent promises you made long ago. I will not be a burden. I will not be weak. I will not need too much. The mask earns admiration, but it costs you yourself. You smile not because you're happy, but because smiling once prevented pain. You strive not because you desire, but because slowing down feels dangerous. Philosophers call this the tragedy of self-forgetting, when who you are becomes only an echo of who you had to be. And then, quietly, something begins to resist. A tension, a fatigue no rest resolves, a sense that this performance is not freedom, but repetition. This is where awakening begins, not with rebellion, but with awareness. Neuroscience shows that even before you decide to move, your brain has already prepared the action. Milliseconds before conscious intent, the body commits. The subconscious is not abstract. It lives in ancient structures of the brain, the limbic system, where emotion outweighs logic, the basal ganglia, where repetition becomes ritual. It speaks not in language, but in sensation, impulse, aversion, attraction. Freud called it the iceberg. Jung called it the shadow. Modern psychology calls it automatic processing. Different names, same truth. What you call personality is often choreography, learned patterns responding to old data. Your mind filters millions of impressions each day. Only a few reach awareness. The rest become the background music of your life. Science can map neurons, but it cannot measure the weight of a sigh that became a definition of safety, or the scent that resurrects a memory you buried. The subconscious speaks through symbols, through dreams, through discomfort when truth approaches. And until you listen, it will continue to guide you silently, because knowledge is not power, awareness is. When the subconscious is ignored, it does not disappear. It waits. Every suppressed fear, every buried emotion, becomes part of the shadow following you. You see it in repetition, the same kind of lover, the same disappointment, the same quiet ache. Psychology calls it repetition compulsion, the drive to relive unresolved pain. The subconscious seeks resolution, not relief. What you suppress mutates. It leaks out as numbness, as sudden rage, as anxiety with no clear cause. Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The shadow is not evil, it is exiled truth. And when you stop running from it, you realize it was never chasing you. It was calling you home. Healing does not begin with control, it begins with attention. The subconscious responds not to force, but to presence. You sit in silence. You let thoughts arise, unfiltered, unfinished. You don't run. This is not aesthetic mindfulness, it is witnessing. Neuroscience shows that observation without judgment quiets the amygdala. Awareness itself becomes medicine. You dream again, you listen, you integrate. Neural pathways reshape through safety, not pressure. Healing is not revelation, it is rewiring. And one day, the subconscious stops feeling like a monster. It becomes a collaborator, a guide back to wholeness. Because the goal was never to silence the depths of your mind. It was to hear them clearly enough to finally rise, not as the version of you that survived, but as the one who remembers why. The subconscious is not your enemy. It is your map home.